Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Terzian, and I'm here for our second live Instagram studio visit with artist Leslie Landau. And I think she is here. Right. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to be here.
That was the easiest connection I've ever had on these things.
Well, we've had practice through Zoom, I think, or figuring it out.
Right, right, exactly. Well, it's so great to see you and have you here today to talk about your work, and show us some of your paintings. I see some behind you. They look fantastic. So if you want to just start out giving us a little bit of background about you, that would be great.
Well, I've been a painter. I grew up in Litchfield. I've been a painter always. I studied at Ohio State and got a teaching certification and master's at Central. So I've taught for 25 years, but I've painted throughout. And now that I'm retired, I'm just painting. I'm loving every bit of it.
That's fantastic. I know that you do a lot of your work is focused on landscape, but what I really would love to hear more about is your use of color, because I read in your statement that sometimes you use color that may or may not necessarily be representative of the landscape, and I think that's really interesting.
Well, I like having that liberty to experiment. I'm going to flip this around.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can. Whoops, I don't know if I did that.
not yet.
Not yet. There we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Nope, came back. Let me try again. Okay, so these are based on landscape where I've taken the color and absolutely explored exaggeration. So it's more the design of the landscape and then taking it into its own light. And I have to force myself to get away from blues and greens, which the show at Oliver Wolcott is predominantly blues and greens, and that's the colors that those are the actual colors, and I love those. But to force myself to get into some things that are a little bit more exaggerated, and I'm going to show you also some things where I just totally deviate from landscape altogether. But like on this wall here. Again, exaggerating the color. I look for those nuances of color where they're layered and layered and layered, and you get something very new. Like this piece is, it might look subtle, and I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but there's just little subtleties in there with purples and uh, different shades of blue that will come out, and I like that exploration. And here's somewhere I get into a little bit more moodiness with the purples. And I just, when you're out in snow, these are called snow squall. Um, it's the colors are gray. The colors are very muted blues, but bringing them more into a purple just enhances the idea. So I don't feel stuck on having to do exactly what's there.
Right, right. Wow, those are stunning. So they're quite layered then, with the different shades of the colors that
Yeah,
you're using.
yes.
Okay,
And
right.
actually, now I'm working on something. I'll come around this. Um, Again, it's layers of color. This is layer 2, and at some point, I mean, this is just in the beginning phase. One thing I learned through the reception at Oliver Wolcott is that people keep saying go larger, go larger. So this is a 30 by 30, and I have done a few, but I'm I'm listening to some of the things I was told, and if people feel that it can handle that or they want to see it larger, I'm going to see where that takes me. But the layers of color with the paint, and then I'd like to show you too some of the colors of things where I've actually tear the paper.
Yes, I'd love to see those.
Okay, so let me come back over here.
Is this a new thing for you to use the?
It's not new, and I work back and forth between the painting, but it's all landscape inspired. It's all nature inspired. So these are all based on ice. I did a whole series of ice pools. There's actually the Switch Gallery in Bantam.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of my ice pools, which are very organic and all torn paper. But these pieces, this is a triptych torn paper. So again, that layering, I just keep wanting to work with that layering. And so with these, it's layers, it's paint, and I construct them and then I paint into them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have too many here. I have, here's two other ice pools brought down. So you can see more of an organic shape. I'm not confined to the rectangle or square, and I like that. Here's another.
Huh.
This lets me really push my color learn in painting and then bring it back to something that's its own living, breathing,
Wow.
breathing.
So you start out with just the paper, is that correct? And then you
Mhm.
shape out of that and then apply the paint? Is that the sort of the process?
So these have, several layers of paper,
Okay.
as does. So I like to experiment. I think being an artist, let me turn this back around.
Great.
Being an artist, we really need to push ourselves to try different things. And I love the painting. And lately, my painting is more working into more simplicity and more atmosphere. The collages or torn paper pieces really let me explore something very different. So that
Does paperwork feel more challenging to you or?
absolutely, because there's nothing that I'm modeling it after. Well, no, I do. I have a whole series of ice pool photographs,
Mhm.
but then I move it into its own direction. It's ice pools, it's hurricanes. Again, that's kind of cyclical, kind of a feel
Right.
work. Um, so yes, absolutely, they're more challenging. And also they're more freeing because there is nothing also. So I can really take it where I want it to be and endless possibilities for them. So sometimes I need a break from the painting and I want to start tearing paper, which that comes from my printmaking background. I love the torn edge.
That sounds, yeah, I can definitely see that connection. Do you work from photographs or from drawings, sketches? Like, what's that process like for you?
Both. So I'm going to flip this around because I think the work is more interesting than my face. I have a stack of photographs here. Again, these are some of the ice pools that I was mentioning. Certainly mountains and travel and even waves, which has inspired some of the work again that's at the library, a lot of the ocean pieces, the pastels. So yes, I do that. I sketch from them, especially with the abstract pieces. So I work in a lot, again, hand in hand. I have pieces of mica here. I have pieces of wood that I've collected. So all those things work, I think, hand in hand to keep me inspired.
And are you more inspired by particular seasons? It seems like a lot of your work is rooted in cold weather, winter. Is that climate more interesting?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We just had a trip out to Ohio for family and just the landscape there. It's a little more flat, but you have a vista. The clouds are really exciting. So when I was driving, I'm directing my husband to start taking pictures of, oh, I need that cloud or that. So anything can be inspiring as long as it's natural. I mean, everything is new every day. And so if you really take a good look,
Yes.
there's a lot of action.
Right. Have you ever been interested in working with figurative art at all, including figures in your work or objects, that sort of thing?
Uh, Not so much. I have done figurative pieces. I've done portraits of my grandkids because I love looking at those little faces enough to do it. I really don't have the patience. It's just a different, I love portraits that are done by other people, but it's
Yeah.
not my,
Yeah.
no.
What about commissioned work? Do you ever do any commissioned pieces for clients or collectors?
I have. So I've done a landscape specific to someone's interest. So a few of those.
Yeah, yeah. And also just going back to the size that you work with, because you mentioned that you normally work on a smaller scale. And I just wonder if you ever see yourself working large scale because you're dealing with landscape. So I imagine that could be a really great possibility down the
Well,
road.
now that I have a larger studio space and I think that I'm ready to start tackling some larger canvases. There's an expense involved, and that's part of, right now I'm up to 30 by 30. I'm ready to go a little larger. The larger you go, the more expensive each piece goes, and storage. But now I have the storage, and I think I'm ready to take on a couple of large pieces and see where it takes me, especially now that I have focused more on atmosphere. I think that they will work
Mhm.
well on a larger scale. So yes, so that's my next direction. Absolutely.
And about how long does it take for you to work on a piece, like your larger pieces?
It depends. It really depends. I mean, I've had pieces that come right away and it's one, and I
Yeah.
have pieces that I struggle with and I go back and forth to, or they're up on the wall and I look at them, it's like it's just not right, which I have a little group on the floor here right now that's they're not there. They're
They're
not
not-
right.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's a nice be able to go back into a painting. Sometimes I get something totally different, ends up being all covered and
Right.
recreate. So
Yeah.
uh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've had pieces that I just struggle with, and I just put them to the side and
Mhm.
come. So
Come back.
it just depends. With the larger pieces, I tend to be using a larger brush.
Mhm.
People aren't going to come in for the detail like they might see in a smaller pieces, like the pastels that I do are about 8 by 10, and that's all detail work. And again, that feeds into the larger pieces because I'm noticing color or I'm noticing little nuances of form or texture that I might not have noticed if I didn't come in close. So um, as far as time, it just depends. Probably the paper pieces, the torn paper pieces take me the longest.
I'm sure. Is there a medium that you feel more comfortable working in, or one that's maybe a little bit more challenging? I know the paper pieces are, but as far as pastel, oil, graphite, just curious about.
Well, I really love oil. I don't work in acrylic because I need to work into a more a wet on wet. I really like it to take time and I slow it down as much as I can. So I don't work in acrylic. So really oil, I love. Um, and pastels, now that I found this nicer pastel paper. I did pastels years ago. And framing them was always such a pain in the neck because the pastels, you turn it over and all the pastel starts coming down into the mat. But there's a nicer paper now that's made it a joy. So I can enjoy the pastels and not go crazy trying to put them in a frame. So
Right.
it's so no, I'm tempted to try sculpture. I did a little bit of welding when as a teacher, and I loved it. So I'm tempted to do a little more experimenting in that direction. So if something were to open up there, I probably my next one of a newer challenge.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
That
I
would
like
be.
I like metal. I like rusty pieces. There's artists that I've seen their work that again layers of metal. So
Mhm.
I take on that challenge next, but. No, I think that they all have their place, and that's probably why I shift from the paper to the torn pieces and
Mhm.
back. But sometimes I need a breather from one.
Yes, right, right. It's good to have some change and working with different mediums, that sort of thing. I would imagine that would just keep you inspired and keep you motivated and going down different directions and whatnot. That's so exciting. So I'm curious if there are any particular artists who inspire you or who you've sort of watched over the years.
Well, I can say my initially as a child, I'd say like Monet
Hmm.
in the forefront. You could probably see a little bit of that
Hmm.
thread through here. Um, Wolf Kahn, I love his use of color.
Yeah, me too. It's
And
amazing.
because of Instagram, you can follow a wealth of artists. So there are so many new well, not necessarily, but there's so many artists out there that have beautiful uses of either color or the design that I'm following. So um, I think that that's become such a wealth of information, and really exciting to see, and inspiration too. And there's a lot of artists right around Litchfield County as well. Being involved with other galleries around, you see their work.
Yes, absolutely. We're so lucky to have so many talented artists in this area. Truly
We all,
inspiring.
of course, we all want to get into New York City, but really, once I just thought this is where I'm going to build, and it's I have plenty of inspiration here and outlets here and people like the libraries and other galleries in the area too that are really supporting the artists.
Yes,
Which is wonderful. So it's been good. We're growing here, which is
yes,
great.
it is. It's exciting.
Mhm.
So your show at the library is up till December 28th.
Mhm.
So we welcome everyone and anyone to come and see the show. It's absolutely gorgeous. Is this your first show at the library, or have you shown?
Go way back,
Okay.
years and years ago. So nice to be back. It wasn't in this room. I don't even know if you had that room available in those days. It was in the front room.
Okay.
But I've been around Litchfield County with different shows. So it's really nice to be back in my hometown. And COVID put us off for a year and a half or 2 years. So it's nice to be up on a wall and having feedback and celebrating creating, which is great.
That's absolutely right. I know. So nice to be in person, seeing the art again and talking about it and looking and yeah, it's wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time. This has been really fascinating and love to see all of the work behind you in your studio. You have a beautiful studio, by the way. Nice
I can
light.
just give you a little glimpse here.
Oh, yeah.
My
Oh,
husband had a business. This was his office. And then when he retired, I took it over. And it's really wonderful to be, these are some of the other pastels that I have and paintings. Um, so I've taken it over and it's a wonderful space. It's large. There's good light. We will put in better lighting and then fluorescence down the line and some skylights. But I'm thankful to have this much room to work and be able to walk outside and have it right here for me, which is nice. These are some more of the collage pieces.
oh, those are beautiful. Wow.
This piece I really do love. This started some of the newer works, just a crevice. And I've incorporated mica into some of these as well.
Fascinating. Wow. So many layers, so many interesting materials being used.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's wonderful to have the opportunity to just sit here and experiment with color, with materials, and
Right.
who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Especially, yeah, all of that wonderful space and natural light coming through and the fact that you can just walk outside and be inspired.
The little piece by my over my head, that's done actually by a monkey, so I can't take credit for that piece. That was my Christmas present for my son.
Oh,
Monkey Sue painted it, so even monkeys like to create.
that's amazing. Oh my goodness. Wow. Love
Yeah.
it. Well, this has been really great. If there's
Yeah.
any last final thoughts you have or want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I hope people will go and see the show, and if they have any specific questions about works. But this art is being an artist is it's an evolution. Every day is different, and um, I hope they keep an eye out for me because I'm loving what I do, and I just want to see where it takes me. But it will be different.
Yeah. Well, that's great. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you and seeing your work. And yes, everyone, please go see Leslie's show at the library up until December 28th.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Leslie. Take care.
Bye bye.